Greetings, Butterfly Tribe, and welcome back to The Way You See Me Heart Healing Ministry. Today I have a special guest with me. I would like to introduce you to my firstborn son, the secondborn child. This is Travante. And today I would like to interview him about how healing has affected his life, how he has witnessed my growth, and how I did as a mother in his life. Welcome to The Way You See Me Heart Healing Ministries, Travante. Tell everybody hello.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
As always, we will open up with a scripture. He chose Psalms, the 90th number. We're going to start at verse 1. Yahuah, you have been our refuge in all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you had brought forth the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting. You are the Almighty One. You turn man back to dust and say, return, O children of men. For 1,000 years in your eyes are like yesterday that has passed, or like a watch in the night. May Yahuah add a blessing to the readers, hearers, and doers of his set-apart word. Travante, is there anything you would like to say before we start the interview? Okay. So, just to give a brief history, Travante was born in 1997. He was born a month before I turned 20 years old. Travante was my firstborn king, and I treated him as such. But I want to hear his perspective on healing. When I started my healing journey, even when I came or awakened into truth, my children were the first individuals that I shared that journey with, because I understood that there were a lot of things that have been taught to them by me in error. And I believe that a problem that most parents or most adults have is that they have a problem admitting when they are wrong. And so if we're going to teach our children to be accountable, then we must set the example, and we must be accountable for our own actions. So Travante, tell me how life was growing up in the household with me as your mother.
Growing up was very challenging. But seriously, it was more of every day it had to be progress, which is I'm grateful for. It's kind of my mantra. Every day I wake up, be the better version of myself. So I was pushed more to become a leader. That I know the difference between right and wrong. Others may not, but just because they're doing it doesn't mean that I have to, because I know the difference between right and wrong.
In the household that we tried to provide for you, Travante grew up with both his father and I, and we tried to walk in our respective roles as mother and father, teaching our children what was appropriate. Travante said that he had to show progress. One thing in our household, we never taught our children were to compare themselves to others, because there is no comparison. My children never heard me speak negative about other people's children, because that was not my place. If I had nothing positive to say, then I kept my mouth closed, because I didn't want people speaking negative over my children, because I had witnessed that in my own childhood. Travante has always been a very independent child. As a mother, I tried to provide what they needed and do for them. Travante, being the middle child, has definitely had he definitely has the case of middle child syndrome, to where he felt he always had to share his time with us, his parents. But even with his siblings, how was your sibling relationship? How did you get along with your siblings?
Like anybody with siblings know, there are times when you feel like, you can't stand them. But no, definitely, I feel like they were good. When I see, like even my relationship with my siblings now, I can call, talk to them, we want to go hang out. I mean, we stay in very far places now, but when we do see each other, it's a time to be had.
Did you feel that it was easy to talk to me as your mother?
When it came to certain things, it was, but that was because of my own personal reasons. I felt like growing up, it was a level of maturity that it came to that I should be able to talk to you about almost anything.
The rule in our household was that if something happened with our children, we expected them to tell us first so that we could be of assistance. I always told them that if I heard of anything they did from someone else, then I would be forced to believe that person. I didn't even sleep with our bedroom door closed because I always wanted my children to know that my door was open to them. I never wanted them to feel like they had to journey through life alone, because I knew how that felt as a child, and always having everybody else's problems on my back. Now, they were expected to be there for each other, that their first friends and the people that they should stick by should be each other. Travante, what were the 3 reasons I said I would go to jail or lose my freedom?
Justice, Chris, and me.
It was only 3 reasons. We lived in a house where we taught discipline. I grew up with the scriptures, spare the rod, spoil the child. And although we were young and did not know the true meaning, or that we could take it too far, we disciplined our children so that no one else would have to. That statement that he just made, or that I made, that it was 3 reasons I would go to jail or lose my freedom, were my 3 children, Justice, Travante, and Christian. That was because when we disciplined them, you had kids that would go out in public and threaten to tell on their parents. It was no secret. I would tell them, because if you get in trouble at school, they're going to blame me anyway. When the police come to get you, they're going to blame me anyway. So I'm going to do just by you, and I'm going to teach you right from wrong, and I'm going to discipline you when you're wrong. And if you tell, it's 3 reasons that I'm willing to lose my freedom. Justice, my oldest daughter, Travante, who is with us today, and Christian, our youngest child. And I meant that with every fiber of my being, that I would do whatever it took to keep them in a position to where they were not under the authority of the police, but under love and guidance by their parents. Travante, tell me a valuable lesson that right off the top of your head you take with you that I've taught you as your mother.
Off the top of my head, honesty. If you make a mistake, at least be honest and own up to it, because everybody makes mistakes. But if you lie about it or try to hide it, that makes the mistake worse. Or it wasn't a mistake in the first place, and you intentionally chose to do wrong.
What were the values in our house? Did we teach y'all worldly things, or did we try our best? Did I try my best as your mother to train you up according to the word of the Most High?
According to the word of the Most High? I used to always clown and say that we was in church 24/7. We barely went anywhere else. If it wasn't church, school, home, You wasn't seeing us.
And sports.
In sports.
Yeah. I did fundamentals. What is my view of fundamentals?
If you can do the fundamentals right, then everything else will fall into place.
Throughout my journey, you'll hear me share how there were some things that I missed out on because choices that I made. But you'll also hear me talk about the fundamentals that were taught to me by people who were fundamentally sound, and I, until today, use those fundamentals. The thing I never, Travante, did you ever hear me brag or boast or tell y'all about my athletic abilities growing up?
No, not at all, actually. Everybody else would come and tell us.
But what did I teach you? Everything I knew.
Right.
They were little kids. I can remember my daughter. She was only 2.5 years old when I went to college, when I attended college, and I remember going to the gift shop and I bought her a miniature basketball and I brought it home for her when I visited for semester break. When I visited again, my daughter was dribbling the ball between her legs, because when she was a little girl, that's what we would do. I would take her to the park and I would teach her the fundamentals, dribbling with both hands, things that I learned as a child later in life. But we, both my husband and I, we taught our children the fundamentals, because fundamentals can be used in anything. To me, sports teach you more than just to be athletic. Sports teach you who you are as an individual, as well as how you take part in team. In life, sometimes you're alone and you need to know your capabilities. And then life sometimes requires you to play as a team player, to where 2 is better than 1. So it wasn't necessarily trying to teach them about sports and athleticism. It was teaching them how to get along with others while both learning their capabilities and what they bring to the table, their strengths, their weaknesses, so that they knew who to form teams with to make not only themselves better, but the team. How often did you go to church, Trey?
Per week? Sunday was Sunday twice, guaranteed every week. That was Sunday school, and then we had church. Then Lord forbid, we had a 3 o'clock service. So sometimes 2 to 3 times on Sunday. Wednesday we had prayer meeting. Saturday we had choir rehearsal. Then once I got a little bit older, Monday nights was for the men's, the deacon meetings, stuff like that.
I know it seemed like a lot as a child, but did you benefit from being around others in a church setting?
As a child, it was something I didn't want to do, but it taught me that sometimes in life you have to do things that you don't want to do to get to where you want to go.
When I was a teenager, I experienced church hurt at the age between the ages of 15 and 16, and it shook my relationship, and I kind of strayed away from church. I would go every now and again, but it was nothing like before, where I was in church every Sunday. Like he said, we would go twice a day because we had Baptist Training Union, and then a second night service, Wednesday midweek service. But I put all that aside, and I kind of strayed into the world and started doing things and being around people that were more worldly. And although I always was the one who never quite fit in and was called the party pooper, my relationship with the Father had been shaken. So in my early 20s, when I realized that it wasn't the Father's fault about the things that happened to me, these things happened because of decisions I made, I began to bring my children. I realized the importance of bringing my children back to church. Now, all three of my children have been dedicated and given back to the Most High as young children, as babies, for his use, for him to fulfill his purpose in their life. But I needed to be a better example. Do you remember when we first started going back to church?
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to work, who would bring you to church?
The van.
The van was asked to pick them up, and their sister would take them to church. And I trusted the people at church to watch over them until they made it back home. But it was important for me. Remember, we're talking about fundamentals. And so for me, the fundamentals of a believer is the foundation that's being set. And for me, my children needed the foundation of the word. Now, there's a scripture that says, train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they grow old, they will not depart from it. Now, I understood that it was my responsibility to train them up, and I did that part. But I also understood that there would come a time when they would be accountable for what they had learned, and that they would experiment just as well as I had experimented on my own, like trial by error type thing. Travante, tell me some of the things that fit into that scripture. Train up a child in the way they should go, that you may not have necessarily lived by as a young adult, but that you're now noticing that you have to go back to the way you were trained.
I'm often reminded of the story of the prodigal son. Mm-hmm. That you know, when I left home at 17 to go to college, it was a quite worldly experience, I should say. You know, at that point in time, I didn't see it, but I was venturing further away from the Most High. It wasn't until my son was born at 19, right before I turned 20, that I noticed, you know, that some things had to change. But since then, it's been I'm not gonna say it's slow, but steady progress back to being with the Most High. I can say honestly that a lot of things that I've done before, or I used to think was fun, or I used to enjoy doing back when I was in the world, no longer seem even interesting, remotely interesting at all. Now that I've made my way back to my walk with the Most High. So that'll be a change of mind is what it more is.
Our final phase of this discussion is going to be the healing journey. As parents, we make mistakes, and we allow our children to see and hear. I'm always reminded of the song, "Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, little feet, where you go." And I did well in some of those areas as a parent, and then not so well in others. And it was only when my children reached their adulthood that I realized some of the bad things that were said and done in their presence took a stronger effect than what was told to them. I'm a strong believer that children need to see you do the things that you're telling them to do, because children will repeat what they see, not what they are told. Travante, how do you feel about that statement?
I feel like it's very true. And at some point, like you said, you know, I felt like it became a lot easier once I started taking accountability for my own actions, you know, because I'm responsible at this age, I'm responsible for my own soul. So no matter what I was taught, or what I've seen, you know, just because I learned a toxic trait or a bad habit or anything of that sort, ignorance of it isn't an excuse. I have to come to terms with it with myself first, I think it became a lot easier once I realized that we're all human and we make mistakes. Growing up, it was hard for me to be wrong. I didn't take being wrong very well. So once I could acknowledge that I was wrong, then I could easily understand that, some people can, sometimes people make mistakes. Everybody can be wrong at some point. So it became a lot easier to understand and forgive those when they were wrong, or learn from their wrongs versus repeat the cycle.
I hear a lot of women say that their relationship with their sons are different than their relationship with their daughters. And it's true. I think our boys, our sons, they look to their mothers for a sensitive and loving approach, because fathers tend to be more disciplined and keeping them in line. How do I fit into that category for you, Travante?
Growing up, it was more of that, more of the sensitive side. More as an adult, it's more like I don't look for the sensitivity part of it. It's more of giving it straightforward. I feel as an adult now, it's more of, honestly, you call me more, just to check on me and stuff. But now it's more of, y'all already taught me most of the lessons that I needed to learn. So now it's more of a figuring it out and putting together which situation is which. It's more of a calling for guidance or advice now more days.
Is there your healing journey? Travante was my first child that knew that I was mentoring young people, young adults, and youth in a spiritual concept for them to approach areas in their life where there was some dark seeds planted along the way through different things. It's not necessarily all areas we think, but he came to me as the first child and wanted me to take him through that journey of healing. He hasn't completed it yet by his own choice. And healing is hard. And a lot of people don't understand just how hard it is to go back to those places. It's hard standing face to face with the things that could have broken you. And so, Trey, tell me about your journey of healing so far.
So far, you say I haven't completed my healing journey by my own choice. That's because when I learn something, I try to apply it first, and then like before I learn new steps, I try to master it first. So the first few lessons that you've given, I've been slowly implementing them one by one until I can perfect them, and then we'll go to the next one, which is why it's taking longer than usual. Most people go through their whole healing and then apply it all at once.
Let me stop you right there. Healing is a lifetime journey.
Right.
So I don't want you to think that that's what I meant, because you're going to heal forever. You're going to have to apply those things for the rest of your life to see the difference, to break those generational curses, to break those thought concepts. It's a lifelong journey. What I meant by that is the pause you took in it, but now I understand you're processing it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. So before, I had a lot of anger, a lot of although being quite disciplined, the times when I wasn't disciplined, it was like the flip side of a coin. Either I was completely disciplined or I wasn't at all. So now it's becoming more mentally solidified in being disciplined. So where that other side isn't an option, I'm slowly but gradually getting there. I feel like when my healing first started, I was in a very dark place. I went through a lot of loss at that point in time when I first started. And it seemed like everything was crumbling down. But since my healing, taking accountability for certain actions that I made, you can't be mad at a house collapsing if you didn't build the foundation right. So I was mad about the loss, but didn't look at the foundation I had built it upon. So now it's about going back and recorrecting the foundation.
Well, before we end this, I just want to tell you that Travante's birthday is on the 16th of September. He'll be 27. And I just want to let him know that these past 27 years as his mother has truly been a blessing to me. Being so young, I kind of feel like I grew up with my children, but at the same time did not try to use it as an excuse. So I try to be a good example as a mother. And I'm not knocking anybody who do these things, but my children could never say that I left them with a babysitter or alone to go to the club. My children saw me occasionally drink. I don't think they've ever seen me drunk and out of control. I have an issue with addictions in my bloodline, in my family, and I was always afraid of addictions. And I believe they saw that as well. My fear of being addicted to anything. And so they saw me live a very set apart life, restricted and almost isolated from anything that I thought would take me away from them. So, but I also had to give them space to make their own decisions when the time came. And Travante was the child that went to college and would never call. I think he was experiencing that freedom, and I had to learn to give him that space. And then when that space just became a bit too much for me, then I would intervene and I would call and check in on him. But I want my son to know that I'm always here for him, that I know that at times I may not be the easiest person to get along with, but my door is always open. I'm a phone call away, and I will talk it out. I'm not perfect, and I don't have all the answers, but we'll figure it out. I just want him to know that he's loved. And I hope that he knows his mother loves him. And he'll always be our little tater tot. That was his nickname as a baby. So I'll let you close and then I'll end the video. Any advice you have for young men out there when it comes to healing?
When it comes to healing, the first thing to do is know where you are. So if you ever get a chance, every morning you wake up, look in the mirror and give yourself a long, hard look. And the things that you don't like are the things that you feel are bothering you. Remember, you have the power to change them. All your actions, all your decisions, your thinking, you control. You can only change what you can control. And most of the time, that's yourself. So be the change that you want to see.
I think that's awesome advice. A lot of people don't understand that truth requires accountability. So a lot of people don't like to hear the truth because they don't want to hold themselves accountable. Accountability is needed in our generation. It's time to stop blaming other people for the mistakes that you choose to continue to make. You can't keep blaming mama and daddy or life or the world or the environment you grew in. Eventually, you have to take accountability for the role you played in choosing to do what you decided to do. Again, thank you all for joining us for The Way You See Me Heart Healing Ministry. I hope you guys have learned something. Hopefully we'll have Travante on again with us. And I hope every day he continues to remove the masks and the things the world want him to see himself as, and that he'll stand face to face and see the image he was created in, that he's being transformed into the image and likeness of our Messiah. Again, join us next time for The Way You See Me Heart Healing Ministry.